2 years after reinventing A Midsummer Night's Dream for a modern audience, Russell T Davies is back on the BBC with a new three-part drama that, while based on real events, is almost as unbelievable as Shakespeare's tale of magic and fairies. A Very English Scandal, adapted from the book by John Preston, tells the true story of Jeremy Thorpe Hugh Grant, a rising star in politics who, blackmailed by his former lover Norman Scott Ben Winshaw, attempted to have Scott killed. Advertisement, continue Reading Bellowitz, a story both of its time, the 1970s, and somehow very timely, with themes of political corruption, press collusion and assassination. Can you just imagine what it's like in the White House right now, says Davies when we sit down with him for an exclusive interview. I hope him talking to Digital Spy in 20 years' time when we're telling that story. The obvious Trump jokes aside, Davies says A Very English Scandal is ultimately a story about men and power and the establishment and politics, so that's always relevant. Copyright BBC, Blueprint, Amazon, Sony. Above Ben Winshaw and Hugh Grant in A Very English Scandal, now a BAFTA winner with 3 decades worth of experience writing for television, Davies has brought us a range of groundbreaking series, from Queer as Folk to The Second Coming to his game-changing revival of Doctor Who. A rewind to 1979, and he was a 16-year-old gay teenager living in Swansea, baffled by news reports of a trial that saw Thorpe in the dock for the attempted murder of his secret paramour. In 1979, even though the right laws had been passed, gayness, and the existence of gayness, was still very slow to filter through down to society, especially in Swansea. So it was one of the few times I remember it being discussed on the news, or as being considered newsworthy. And even then, it was being discussed in the oddest terms. It was a very strange case. Copyright Aubrey Hart, Getty Images. Advertisement, continue Reading below. Above, the real Jeremy Thorpe arriving at the Old Bailey in 1979. The Guardian has called the Thorpe case so bizarre, so improbable, that it seems wildly irresponsible not to make its study a compulsory part of the national curriculum, but Davies isn't at all surprised that it has since faded from public memory. The people in it vanished because they were ruined. They literally disappeared from public life. And also it's a gay story, which are not told so much. The Profumo story, for example, a straight, is still talked about to this day, but that's why it's a pleasure to tell, actually. It's more unknown. Copyright BBC, Blueprint Television Ltd. When the offer came through to adapt Preston's book, Davies says it took him reading all of about 5 pages before agreeing. The book kind of gets how funny the whole thing is, and how sad it is at the same time. It suits my form of writing. I was reading it, thinking, that's how I write. The eccentricity and the savagery and the oddness and the humanity of it all, I like to think I write like that, so I very much felt myself chiming with it. Though several books and countless articles have been written about Thorpe and Scott, the TV version of A Very English Scandal is, according to Davies, one of the very first times the story's been told by a gay man. There's a lot of books been written about this, mostly by straight people, and I thought I had things to say about that. Copyright Stuart C. Wilson, Getty Images.